Right, so Big Ed is back, gracing our screens with his unusual presence for his 4th season on TV. We've now watched him try and fail to find love in the Philippines with Rose on 90 Day Fiancé, fall in and out of love with Liz on season 1 of 90 Day The Single Life, and strike out with Kaori on season 2 before finishing the series in a shock reunion with Liz. But this time, rather than watching him desperately treading water in the early stages of a relationship, like a pug plopped in a toddler's paddling pool, this time he's in deep. Just 2 weeks after getting dumped by Kaori and returning from Mexico, he proposed to Liz. And now we've got a brand new season coming up where we're going to find out if they can make it to the altar and live happily ever after. So make sure you're subscribed so you can keep up with the saga, and let's just jump straight into it.
This outfit will make or break this wedding.
I think we have found the one. Looks like it was meant for your wedding.
Oh my God, you're so awesome.
Are you ready?
Let's do it. Oh my God. I love it.
This is the one.
You're the one.
So that is Big Ed's new dog, Leon, who's going to be the ring bearer. He got him after Teddy sadly passed away at the end of last season. Also, 2 months after getting him, Big Ed noticed that Leon was getting kind of lonely, so he got another dog called Leah. Leon, of course, was the new member of the family that Liz clickbaited people into thinking might be a baby. Anyway, they spend a lot of time in this first episode going through everything that had happened between them since they first met. But I'm going to skip all of that because we've covered it already, and it's always available in the Big Ed playlist if you ever want to go back and binge it. So moving on, now that Big Ed and Liz are engaged, they want to throw an engagement party. And today, they're off to check out a venue. Coming with them are 2 of Liz's best friends, Tawny and J-Lo, who understandably don't exactly approve of the relationship.
I mean, I hope he doesn't break up with her a 9th time. There was 8 breakups.
Yeah.
There was 8 freaking breakups. That's a lot of breakups.
It's a lot of breakups.
So what's gonna make it different this time?
Good question.
I love it when we get to see Big Ed squirm. He gets away with so much on these series and he almost never gets called out for it until the tell-alls, so it's always so satisfying when there's someone there to hold him accountable. It's kind of why I enjoy making commentary videos on him so much. It feels like I'm watching it with you guys, especially with all the comments you guys leave on these videos and all the messages you send me on social media. It's almost too cringy or too infuriating to watch without them.
Most of it was my issues. So I felt I had to grow in order to be with her. And I realized she was what I wanted. And I knew I could handle it. I knew I was ready.
And he's the one that I love, and he's the one that I want to be with.
Ed's always been kind of good at this, and every single time I have to tell myself not to buy any of it. He messes up every season, comes back the next season and does some self-reflecting, seems to know what he's done wrong and promises to change, and then does it all over again. And I swear he's done it so many times that I've started saying this at the start of every saga too. This time it's slightly different because he's not going to be making the same mistakes he usually makes at the start of a relationship, like putting too much pressure on his partner or moving too fast. But no doubt brand new mistakes are going to arise from the exact same root issues.
I love Ed because, yes, we had a really rough patch for a while, but Ed has shown me love in ways that I've never had with any previous relationship. He shows his love for me too with the love that he has for my daughter, and I think that was the biggest thing that made me fall in love with Ed.
It is quite sweet that he cares about her daughter, but the rest of it is just empty words. She doesn't talk about any actual redeeming qualities he has, just some vague notion about how he loves her. It's a question I've always wanted Liz to answer, and her lack of one is kind of telling. And it definitely doesn't help her case when a lot of people suspect that she's with Big Ed for the money and the clout that comes with it. Anyway, next, Tawny asks who's going to be attending the engagement party.
Who's all coming?
My grandparents are gonna hopefully be meeting his family.
Wow.
So on my side, the announcement of our engagement didn't quite go as expected. Like, I really don't know.
If you remember from the tell-all, Big Ed's mum Norma, daughter Tiffany, and friend Rich do not approve of the relationship at all. When Big Ed and Liz had their first breakup, Liz said a lot of really bad things about Ed. She released that abusive phone call we covered in a previous video. She began sharing the cancel Big Pred hashtag in light of the accusations against him. And she even signed and shared a petition demanding TLC remove Big Ed from their platform. Now, Norma, Tiffany and Rich are worried that the pair are going to break up and that Liz is going to do that all over again. In fact, because of all of this, Tiffany still hasn't spoken to Big Ed since that tell-all 4 months ago, she just will not answer his phone calls, so he doesn't know if she, or indeed Norma, will even come to the engagement party. Rich, however, does stay in contact despite the two not being on good terms, so Big Ed is hoping to clear the air with him soon.
You know, he said a lot of bad things, and I want to know why he can't accept the fact that I've chosen Liz. So I'm going to say, hey, look, Rich, I thought you were my friend. You know, quit talking to my mom. Let me have a conversation.
Wait, Rich is talking to your mom?
He talks to her like every day.
That's bizarre.
It's very bizarre.
So Big Ed says that Rich and his mum have gotten a lot closer since he got back together with Liz and announced their engagement. Because they're both against the relationship and against the idea of Big Ed and Liz getting married, they seem to be bonding over it. But Big Ed fears that that's going too far. Not that far though, I mean more like Rich getting inside of her head, rather than getting inside anything else. Anyway, Big Ed is worried that Rich is aggravating her concerns, which is ruining his relationship with his mum even further.
What is going on with your mom and you?
So she kind of felt like, oh, you're picking Liz over me. I'm like, I'm picking me over me, and I'm in love with Liz. To be honest, we're not in a good place.
I think he worded that wrong, either accidentally or to make it sound better, because he's not necessarily picking Liz over her, he's picking himself over her. I don't blame Norma at all for not approving of the relationship, but to be fair, it is her giving him the ultimatum. Big Ed isn't choosing to abandon his mum, he's just choosing to be with Liz. I hope we hear more from Norma at some point though, because it's hard to tell if she's saying that she wants to be out of his life entirely as long as he's with Liz, or if we're only hearing Big Ed's twisted side of the story here.
I don't like the fact that, like, I feel like I'm being blamed for something. No. And I came back into this relationship. Like,
it wasn't fair to Liz.
No, yeah.
Because now she's taking the blame.
Yeah. Now she's getting put as, like, the villain, and, like, that's not fair.
I'm glad she's staring at Big Ed here because that is entirely his fault. Whenever they broke up, Big Ed would tell everyone close to him about their relationship problems and twist it to make it seem like she was a terrible person. It makes it harder for Big Ed to get those people back on board with the relationship, but it's also causing Liz a lot of anxiety because she's constantly worried that those people are going to come back into Big Ed's life and convince him not to be with her anymore. For now, her immediate concern is with Rich because Big Ed is off to try and talk things through with him, and he is not happy.
I think Liz, she's an opportunist. She's not here for the right reasons. And that was my initial reaction when I found out that they got engaged.
This guy does not hold back when it comes to either of these two. It's like when he came on during the last tell-all and called Big Ed desperate and called both of them insecure and selfish. By the way, in case you were wondering, their meeting place is indeed in the middle of a park at night. I don't know why the producers chose such a creepy location, and even Big Ed said that it was like a weird drug dealer meet, but that is what they decided on.
I know you want me to be happy for you, like that, but are you sure, Ed? Like, this is the person you want to be with? This person that tried to destroy you, that tried to take you down?
Well, Richard, what about what I did to her? I mean, I broke up with her 8 times via text. In my heart, that's after 6 months of therapy and 6 months of total separation, I realized that's who I wanted to be with.
Again, the reasoning is so empty. Justifying her bad behaviour with his own bad behaviour doesn't really answer the question. Like, we already know that he's a degenerate, but saying that he's trash so he deserves trash isn't going to persuade Rich to approve of Liz. And okay, for the 100th time Big Ed has brought up that he went to therapy, but why did it end with him realising he wanted to be with Liz? How exactly did he come to that conclusion? He just doesn't seem to be able to give an actual answer.
I tell you I'm engaged, and it was just hate,
dude.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but you just come out of the blue.
But Richard, it came out of the blue for me too.
That's because you're impulsive. You're impulsive. If you walk across the street and you got hit by a car once, wouldn't I say, hey, Ed, are you sure you want to cross this fucking street again? You got hit the last time.
To be fair, just because you got hit crossing the street once doesn't mean you should never cross it again. Just maybe you should cross it in a different way, even if you are built to survive a car crashing into you. The main problem just seems to be that Big Ed is steamrolling ahead and doing things the exact same way he did them the first 8 times around.
I'm choosing her over everyone. My mom doesn't accept her. My daughter doesn't accept her.
Your mom called me yesterday.
She calls and you talk to her every day. Don't you think that's kind of weird?
Well, no.
I do.
Not as close as we've been as friends and family.
Let my mom adopt you as her son. She likes you more than I do. I just don't need to see it.
We always say that Big Ed has a way of making everything sound creepy, and he's done it again, but this time talking about his mum. I just don't need to see it as the kind of thing you say when you're talking about your ex moving on with someone else, not when you're talking about your friend talking to your mum. Unless I'm misreading this whole situation. I mean, the whole MILF thing I can definitely get behind. I had a fat crush on one of my friend's mums growing up, but 83-year-old Norma? Either way, Big Ed has other concerns on his mind for now.
I'm very worried that, God forbid something should happen. I wouldn't want her leaving this world being mad at me.
That is the big risk with all of this, and given it was mentioned in the tell-all 4 months ago, I'm surprised they haven't sorted it out yet. There are very few things in this world that Big Ed deserves, but other than a criminal investigation, and perhaps a one-on-one grilling I hope to be able to give him one day, peace with his elderly mother really is one. I just hope that he really is putting in the effort to genuinely try and fix things with her.
I'm choosing to be with Liz. You don't support it, so what do you want to talk about? That's it.
That's it.
I go my way, you go yours.
Yeah, and that's so okay with you. It's an ultimatum. You're saying either you accept my decision of who I'm going to be with or you're out of my life.
I rarely ever say this, but a part of me agrees with Ed here. Once Rich has said his piece and warned Big Ed about how this could all go wrong again, his duty as his friend is done. I think if I fell in love with someone and my friend was constantly trying to bring it down and made the relationship difficult, I'd be saying the same thing. Thank you for your advice and I appreciate the home truths, but this is my decision and it's final. So are you with me or are you not?
Richard is someone that's been very important to me in my life. Somebody that I trusted more than my own brother. And it's hard, to have a conversation with someone that will most likely end our friendship.
Yeah, I'm curious what you guys think here. I know most of you don't think that Big Ed and Liz should be together, so if someone wiped your ability to judge someone based off their actions and personality and you somehow ended up being friends with Big Ed, or even if it wasn't Ed and you were in Rich's position with one of your actual close friends, what would you do? Would you stick to your guns and never let it go at risk to the friendship? Or would you accept their decision after you've said your piece and continue to support them as their friend?
If I want my relationship with Liz to work, I don't have a choice. I'm risking everything. I literally, and I know it sounds sad, I literally have no one. I'm all in.
Well, it is high risk, high reward with these two, so maybe Rich should just accept it for now, knowing that it likely won't last anyway. Big Ed in a relationship is kind of like a woodpecker locked inside a wooden ship. It's just bound to end in disaster, and it looks like we could be witnessing breakup number 9 sooner than we think. Next up, Big Ed takes Liz on a photography lesson, but blatantly flirts with a model right in front of her, leading to yet another tear-filled argument between them. As always, we're going to be covering that episode and every other episode this season as soon as they're out. So if you want to keep up with this saga, please feel free to subscribe down below. Thank you for watching and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.